Welcome to Independent Sources. I'm Vianora Vinca.
And I'm Gary Pierre. More than $5 billion in aid will be going to Haiti over the next 2 years to rebuild the country after the devastating earthquake that hit in January. And the international funders have pledged billions more over the years to come. It's an ambitious effort aimed at longer-term development.
On this edition of Independent Sources, helping Haiti build back better.
Soccer in South Africa, the questions concerning the World Cup.
And a blogger's quest for credibility.
We'll have those stories and news of the week after this.
Ethnic media, I think, gives a voice, a comfortable and familiar voice to people in their specific communities.
The international community has come to Haiti's aid big time. An extraordinary number of nations, development banks, and non-governmental organizations have pledged nearly $10 billion to Haiti's government in an effort to rebuild the country. But the plan to pour these resources into Haiti is not without controversy. Here to discuss the issue are Ronald Oborg of the Consortium for Haitian Empowerment and Kim Ives of the weekly newspaper Haiti Liberté. Welcome.
Thank you.
Out of the $10 billion that's been pledged to Haiti at the UN recently, about $1.15 billion has been pledged by the US. Kim, in your work as a journalist, you've been arguing that the US has played a role in Haiti's social, economic, and political problems. What's the significance of this amount that the US is pledging?
In fact, there's a whole movement which says that the U.S. should be paying Haiti reparations, not aid, for the role it's played in Haiti since 1915, when it first occupied the country for 19 years. And even in the following years, it carried out essentially through Haitian proxies 2 coups d'etats in the last 20 years, one in 1991, one in 2004. And has had just a tremendous role in destabilizing the country. So now, in fact, it's taking over the economy, we could say, through another proxy, the World Bank. I mean, the World Bank is now going to be the agency which is determining the plans to be made. It's going to be approved by another foreign-dominated council and then overseen by another foreign-dominated council. So we can say essentially the Haitian government has been taken over, I think, in this most recent aid period. And the U.S. is, of course, the leader of that.
Ronald, what's the significance of this money that is pledged to Haiti?
Well, I think it's significant in terms of the commitment that the international community has pledged to take Haiti out of the darkness that it finds itself after the January 12th earthquake. But one of the things that I noticed, I read throughout the plan of action that was conceived before the meeting last Wednesday was the fact that the role of the Haitian diaspora. And in relation to what Kim just said, I would hope that the Haitian diaspora not only would be part of the step-by-step process that will take place through the 2020 that this plan calls for, but also to challenge the way, the processes that it will employ to get to 2020, rebuilding the social life of Haiti, the economy, and what have you. I was talking to somebody recently, and one of the things that they emphasize is the fact that Haitians in Haiti must be an integral part of this process.
But they aren't.
They aren't. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton actually said that aid has never helped a country. She said that at the UN the other week, and she
never
added,
saved a country, I think.
And she added that the goal of the U.S. is to empower the Haitian people. Can that be done?
Right. I think the words and action don't match. Essentially, the U.S. has been overthrowing the democratically elected governments of Haiti repeatedly over the past 20, 30 years. They supported dictatorship, the Duvalier dictatorships for many years. And so, you know, to me, the fact that Haiti is not able to, I mean, even just look at this latest plan. The Provincial government, which has been quite, I could say, cooperative with Washington, was proposing an agriculture focused development strategy. What the Clinton plan, that's what I would call it in short, comes with, is saying, no, Haiti is going to have sweatshops, that is assembly factories, and tourism. These are going to be its two mainstays. And this makes it totally dependent on the U.S. economy, which, as we all know, isn't doing so well right now. And agriculture is being given short shrift, what Haiti needs to feed itself. In this budget, which is about $12 billion, of the 12.6 that they asked for, only 41 million, that's 0.3%, was given to agriculture and fishing. So I think it's a problem.
I mean, that was one of my concerns about agriculture, and I think that Haitians and Haiti should go back to what it was in terms of its main production, and I think more money should have been allocated to agriculture in the rebuilding of the social rebuilding. Also, I think one of the things that I noticed in the plan is healthcare, and I think that Haiti needs, at this point and within the next 10 years, a very sustainable and huge healthcare system that will take, first of all, engage physicians and healthcare providers, but also the people who have been victimized. One of the things that I want to mention, Vianora, is the fact that we will have, within the next, to me, 6 years, a crisis, mental crisis in Haiti in terms of what transpired on the 12th. And I think that healthcare, agriculture, and should be the foremost, should be appropriate more money in this plan of action.
Just one thing I would say on the healthcare issue is that the fact is, you take a neighboring country like Cuba, which has very little resources. They haven't had to go through all this show business of a UN conference and so forth. They just have put 800 doctors, actually 1,500 doctors since the earthquake, on the ground. They've set up field hospitals. They have hospitals throughout Haiti. They have little clinics built in the tent and tarp cities that we see. I mean, it's extraordinary what they've done without anything, just bringing in doctors. They've become a doctor superpower. This is the opposite to me of what's going on at the UN, where essentially they're giving billions of dollars, mostly promises. Only 30% of the last fundraising campaign was ever honored. And most of this money, to me, is aimed to go to Halliburton, DynCorp, Brown and Root, the usual Pentagon-linked contractors who just want to make billions. In fact, this is just basically a bailout of those big companies from taxpayers in countries.
Ronald, what do you think, how much of this money is going to go to the Haitians?
Actually, my last intervention, I was going to mention about this word pledge. We must be very careful because we've gone through that route before about pledging, but none have never materialized. And I think that, to me, I would hope that we are facing a different strategy. We are facing a different process. We are facing a different team that would make sure that this money not only gets there, but it does the job that it promised to do. We hope that it's not pledged. We hope that, you know, the plan, you know, commutes action, not pledging.
Kim, final word in the last minute that we have. Has the U.S. done anything right in Haiti?
Well, that's tough to say, but I think it's done a lot more damage in recent years. And I think if the Obama administration is serious about wanting to right some of the wrongs that it's done, it should begin by listening to the Haitian people, involving them in the process of reconstruction, and answering to some of their demands, like turn back the coup d'etat of 2004, return President Jean-Bertrand Aristide from exile, give those groups a role in deciding how reconstruction monies will be used.
I would just piggyback on what Kim said, and I think that emphasizing the fact that Haitian must be, it must be part of this rebuilding plan, because we cannot have any more anything imposed on us, because we have to, we have the know-how, we have the capacity, we have the ability, and we need to be at the table as well.
And unfortunately, we're out of time, but we will continue to cover this story and see how things develop. Kim Ives and Ronald O'Borg, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Now here's Marlene Peralta with some other news.
Thanks, Vianora. Here's a look at some headlines from the ethnic media. New America Media reports that the 2010 homeless count may skyrocket, according to predictions of shelter officials. The Census Bureau started counting the homeless population just last week. Federal government agencies rely on the count to determine how much money should be allocated for that particular population. The Forward reports that the Student Senate at the University of California, Berkeley, approved a resolution asking the school to divest from corporations that support the Israeli military, West Bank separation barrier, and settlement building. The resolution passed by a vote of 16-4. It specifically calls for the university's divestment from General Electric and United Technology. A high-ranking official of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines said members of his clergy can join protests in the event the new automated election system fails during the May 10th elections. Bishop Deogracias Iniguez said that people would need guidance from the clergy if that occurs and the military takes over. Many Bangladeshi parents are concerned about their American-born children's apathy towards religion, Bangla Patrika reports. Some fear this trend might drive them away from their own culture and roots. Leaders of the Bangladeshi community blame the American lifestyle and environment for influencing secularism among their younger generations. And finally, the Italian Tribune reports that an Italian-designed electronic nose will be tested in space soon. The sophisticated sensor was designed to identify different odors and scents that human noses are not able to detect. The device will be tested by Italian astronaut Roberto Vittori, one of the 6 crew members traveling to the International Space Station on the Space Shuttle Endeavour. Those are just a few headlines from the ethnic media. Gary, back to you.
When the World Cup is held in South Africa in June, it will be the first time an African nation has hosted this major football competition. But controversy has surrounded the Cup since South Africa was chosen as the site of the Games 6 years ago. Criticism of FIFA, the sport's international governing body, along with reports of government corruption, have spread in the media. I recently talked with Dave Zirin of The Nation and Omoyele Sowore of the SaharaReporters.com to get their take on the tournament. Dave Zirin, Omoyele Sowore, thanks for joining us. Before we start our conversation, let's look at a clip.
FIFA is set to make billions, but what will it mean for South Africans themselves?
Soon, I'll get a job like building a stadium, and I'll be happy to do it.
We'll make more business if 20 to 10 come. I'm so happy.
Who really benefits?
FIFA, the television rights, are its main source of income. FIFA's already got its money.
Why build new stadia?
If we are building universities, why should we not build major international stadium?
The sinfulness of what we have done is excruciating in terms of a misappropriation of resources.
They don't dream to go to hospital.
Public funds have been looted for a moment in our history. People are still going to be living in shacks.
You can build as big a stadium as Germany can build. It's a bit pathetic, really.
The approach is one of appearance, where stadia become much more important than what's actually going on behind the scenes.
Dave, what is going on behind the scenes in preparation for the World Cup?
Well, I was just in South Africa, and unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, it's not really happening behind the scenes. It's happening in plain view. 20 billion rand, which works out to roughly $4 billion, roughly in there, are being spent on building new stadiums in a country that already has very workable soccer stadiums throughout the country. And that's not even the beginning or the end of it. There are all kinds of laws being passed that are starting to really upset regular folks in South Africa. And I think things are brewing there where there is going to be considerable protest in the lead up to the Cup. Let me just give one example of what I'm talking about, of something that's upsetting people in South Africa very much. For decades in South Africa, it's been custom that people have made money, practiced their trade by selling goods outside of sports stadiums. But in preparation for the World Cup, the country has passed something they're calling the 1 kilometer rule, where people have to stay at least 1 kilometer away from the stadiums. I mean, these are folks who've been doing this for decades, for 40 years. I met a woman who was a grandmother who'd been doing it since she was a teenager, and she's now being told she can't take a part in the moneyed bonanza that is the World Cup. And let me just be clear, I do not solely put the blame for this on the South African government. I actually think it primarily falls upon FIFA and the demands that they make of a host country, which is not that different from the demands that the International Olympic Committee makes of a host country in preparation for these large global sporting events.
Okay, fair enough. Omoyele, how has the African press been covering the story? Are some of the issues that Dave has raised been part of the discussion?
I think that is what is lacking, in my own opinion. I've read a lot of stories on South Africa, and the African media is covering it as sports and not covering it from a socio-political dimension, which is to think of it beyond soccer and football, or as they call it, and look at people, over whose head all of the tourists, or the players and the audience will come to South Africa. And there's a whole lot of missing report about the suffering.
So basically, they're going along with the FIFA and the
absolutely,
government's line.
and this just happened in Nigeria recently, where there was a sporting event, also a FIFA Under-17 World Cup, where a lot of what was done in covering up the atrocities and the corruption that attended the preparations for it. And because it was not covered when the event started, there were a lot of lapses. Of course, again, FIFA did everything it can or it could to cover up all the lapses.
So, Dave, getting back to your point that FIFA imposes a lot of restrictions, if you will, or demands on host countries, why? If South Africa, for instance, as you mentioned, has the infrastructure in place to host the games, so why impose all these new capital expenditures on them?
Well, because it's about maxing out dollars. That's one thing it's about. It's also about using sports as, I call it, a neoliberal Trojan horse. It's about, I mean, you saw it in the clip where Danny Jordan, who's the head of soccer for South Africa, he said, nobody dreams of going to a hospital. They dream of going to a stadium. Now, this is about the priorities laid out for a country. Now, if they put it to a vote in South Africa and said, we're not going to be building hospitals and schools, we're going to be building stadiums, that would lose by a 9-1 margin, I'm sure. But when you dress it in the World Cup, the same way they do this when they dress it in the Olympics for other countries, they're able to pass certain expenditure priorities that otherwise they would not be able to pass. And the IMF and the World Bank have for several decades put this deep emphasis on tourism as a way that the global south and the developing world will get capital. And this is a way to push that through instead of a country spending on its own. But some of the politicians in South Africa are starting to use a phrase to denigrate anybody who's a critic about what's happening
What's
with the world.
that phrase?
Afro-pessimist. You are an Afro-pessimist. And what they're trying to say, it's very clever, because it's a clever manipulation of emotions. It's saying, if you're criticizing the World Cup, it means you're saying that Africa cannot compete with Europe or the United States. You're saying that Africa is not on the same level and we can't do what they can do. But I want to be very clear.
Let me stop you right there, Dave, because I wanted to Sorori to talk about that. I mean, is there some validity to that? I mean, we've heard that.
Well, there is.
Isn't this a way for South Africa or the continent in general to showcase itself?
Well, there is. There's no question about it, and I've said it everywhere, that, the Western media doesn't cover Africa in a manner that is fair all the time. But that is not the reason, and that's not the excuse for the corruption on the continent, and it is not an excuse to cover up atrocities committed by African leaders. That's my position, and that's why I write the way I write. In terms of how African leaders portray someone as being pessimistic, or being racist in terms of all of that is bullocks. You know, they do that to see how much they can silence even their own citizens. Like I said, most of African journalists are not covering the socio-economic issues going on the ground because FIFA also offers most of African journalists, tickets. They offer them flight tickets. They have all kinds of incentives for them that will keep their mouth shut. And that is something that we ought to be looking into as well.
Now, what about the social value, the public relations value, the sort of intangible values of being a host of such an event, Dave? I mean, there are some positives to this, aren't there?
Well, let me address that if I could. Having just returned from South Africa, it is one of the most beautiful, magical places I've ever seen in my entire life. And they estimate the number of tourists who will be there for the World Cup will not necessarily be any greater than in a typical month, because it'll keep some people away because airfare is spiked up, because people don't want to be there during all the commotion. But even in a typical time, people are going to South Africa because it contains some of the profound beauties of the world. But no, this is about profit gouging as much as anything else. Let me raise another point about that. Do you realize that the television rights, FIFA sold them for 25 billion rand? That's more than the previous 2 World Cups combined.
Really?
They're able to do that for the simple reason that it's in Africa. And they're expecting profound interest from the global south and the developing world, precisely because it's there. Now, guess how much the South African government, guess what the cut they get out of that 25 billion rand is? 0. 0.0. The host country gets none of the television money. So this process is absolutely ridiculous. And I have to say about just the Afro-pessimism thing, I toured a lot of the stadiums that were being built. They were incredible. I have no doubt that South Africa can host the World Cup. The question is, should they be doing it the way that they are doing it? And I totally agree with your other guest. By putting the Afro-pessimist label on people, it's a way, more than anything else, to silence dissent.
I mean, you just lodged a really serious accusation at FIFA, and when you mentioned that they pay the journalists to keep quiet, I mean, that's pretty serious.
It is. I mean, it's serious, but it's a well-known fact that FIFA officials routinely take care of journalists who are coming to these events, and also that they overlook a lot of things in order to keep going. There's a lot of, I think there's even a website dedicated to the, mafia nature of how FIFA is run, honestly.
Unfortunately, we'll have to leave it at that. Dave Zirin, thanks for joining us. Omoyele Sorori, thanks for being here.
Thank you for bringing me once again.
We'll be right back.
Inner City Press may be headquartered in the South Bronx, but some of its biggest battles have been waged at the headquarters of the United Nations. Michel Garcia reports on the news blog's UN correspondent and his quest for credentials and credibility.
I'm pleased to join with you as we inaugurate
in the State Halls of the United Nations. In a world of busy reporters, Matthew Lee stands out, in part because he's everywhere. Hard-nosed and skeptical, Lee is unimpressed with feel-good UN events.
The exhibition is a statement of womanhood and shared issues and concerns of women globally.
Sometimes they'll have press conferences about sort of feel-good topics, and it's but if you actually know the issue, it's okay, what exactly is the UN doing on the topic?
Lee is a roving reporter for Inner City Press, a news blog read by UN followers and foreign news junkies. He's a blogger. Not, he insists, a reporter who blogs.
A blog is different than a newspaper story. It doesn't have to be rumors. It just has to be a little more active, a little more snarky.
Matthew Russell Lee, attorney, reporter, to some a gadfly, to others persistent.
Is the UN doing anything to try to figure out the Haitian census?
And in the still murky world of online journalism, Lee has faced his share of battles proving his legitimacy. In 2005, he turned up at the United Nations ready to cover the global community and was denied media accreditation. The reason? bloggers weren't qualified. After a campaign that had the support of other journalists, Lee received the coveted credentials. And soon he began shaking things up, says CNN's veteran UN correspondent Richard Roth.
Matthew Lee is the new breed, blogging, spot news, asking all kinds of questions that mainstream media either don't care about or don't want to pay to staff to cover the UN.
Sometimes different doesn't always go over so well.
There have been a lot of fireworks, low-level fireworks at briefings with different spokespeople saying, listen, Matthew, I told you we would get back to you, or I asked Matthew, or I'm not going to continue with this discussion, Matthew. You would think the UN is called Matthew House because Matthew's name has probably been mentioned more at the UN daily briefings in the last 3 to 4 years than anyone else, guaranteed.
However, appearing like a one-man operation cost Inner City Press a listing on Google News, a major source for press credibility in the digital age. After tax reports show that the company is a 3-person operation, funded through grants, Google News reinstated the company within a week. Last year, an unnamed source tipped off Lee to a private meeting among UN officials who discussed filing a complaint with Google News to delist the blog. Lee took his questions to a UN briefing where he addressed Michel Montes, then spokesperson for the Secretary General.
Nothing was decided, absolutely nothing. Things were discussed because of the fact that a number of allegations that you have printed are erroneous, do not respect the facts, and may I finish, please? Not only you do not respect the facts, you do not respect when we actually call upon you, and we send a rectification. What I've read in your blog goes against many of the ethical values of journalism.
The documents that Lee claims support his suspicions lack letterhead, raising questions about where accountability lies in small, nonprofit blogs, a critique he's heard before.
And they said it's because there's no accountability. We want to be able to complain to someone above you. And I understand that, and I think it's the same. My example I gave to them was I said, then you shouldn't have Fox News here. Because ultimately, Rupert Murdoch controls the corporation. Nobody will tell him what to do or not to do, right? So the question is, so you can accept a hyper-affluent individual being unaccountable.
Hardscrabble better defines Inner City Press and its start in the Bronx.
It started on a mimeograph machine, then it was a hard copy paper. It covered taking over abandoned buildings, in the Bronx and stuff. But then it covered banks, so that made sense, because banks were redlining, the idea is banks are redlining the inner city and insurance companies.
Lee still covers both, banks and the UN. In many ways, he says the Bronx isn't that far from the UN.
I don't really see it as different. I think journalism, whether you're covering foreign policy or local municipal corruption, there's some similarity, right? There's some essence to it, which is trying to get at the truth or report how people are being impacted.
For Independent Sources, I'm Michelle Garcia.
That's our show. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week.
In the meantime, be independent-minded.